Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Personal Growth Talks podcast. I'm your host, Jason.
And I'm Julia, your co-host. Thanks for joining us today. We have a really powerful topic to explore together.
Yes, today we're diving into something that might sound harsh or even controversial. Man without money are nothing. This is a sentence many people hear. Some believe it, others reject it.
Right. It's a phrase we often hear in movies, music, or even in everyday life. But what does it really mean? Are men really nothing if they don't have money? Or is this just a social mindset we need to question?
Exactly. In many cultures, a man's value is often measured by how much money he makes, what car he drives, or how successful he looks. But is that the only way to measure a man?
And what happens when a man doesn't have money? Does he lose his respect, his relationships, his sense of identity? These are the questions we'll explore today.
Our goal isn't to criticize anyone. We just want to open up an honest conversation. Whether you're a man feeling this pressure or someone trying to understand it, we hope this episode gives you a new perspective.
We'll also share real stories, personal reflections, and practical tips for building a strong identity that doesn't depend only on money.
So stay with us, and let's begin by talking about why this topic matters so much in today's society. So, Julia, let's talk about why this topic matters so much in today's world. Why is it that the idea, a man without money is nothing, keeps coming up again and again?
Well, Jason, I think a big reason is that we live in a world where money equals power. It affects status, influence, relationships, and even how people treat you. And unfortunately, men often carry a heavy burden. They feel like they have to be the provider, the protector, the one who earns the most.
That's true. From a young age, boys hear things like, be a man, don't depend on anyone, or your job is to take care of the family. And while being responsible is good, it also creates pressure. It teaches them that if you don't have money, you're a failure.
Exactly. And in today's world, especially with social media, men are constantly comparing themselves. They see other men showing luxury cars, big houses, expensive watches, and they start feeling less than if they don't have those things.
And that comparison can be dangerous. Some men fall into depression, anxiety, or even risky behaviors just to look rich or successful.
Not only that, but women, and society in general, sometimes expect men to be financially strong before they're seen as worthy. Like, if a man doesn't have a good job or enough money, he's often judged or rejected.
Right. And that's what makes this topic so important. Because we need to ask, are we defining a man's worth only by his wallet? What about his kindness, his honesty, his character?
Yes, there are so many men out there who are intelligent, hardworking, and loyal, but maybe they're still on their journey financially. Should they feel like they're nothing because of that?
Definitely not. We need to shift the mindset. Money is important, of course, but it's not the only thing that defines a human being.
And if we don't talk about this openly, more people will suffer in silence. So having this conversation, especially here on the podcast, is a way to challenge the mindset and bring some hope.
Exactly. And that brings us to our next point, the huge pressure men feel to always earn and succeed. Let's dive into that. So now let's talk about something very real, the pressure on men to earn money. Honestly, Julia, it's something many people don't fully understand unless they experience it themselves.
Yes, and it starts early. Boys are often taught that they must grow up to be providers. It becomes part of their identity. If they don't earn enough, they feel like they've failed, not just financially, but as a person.
Exactly. It's not just about making money. It's about proving something. Proving that you're strong, capable, dependable, and even manly. That's a lot of emotional weight to carry.
And in today's economy, things aren't easy. Not everyone can find a high-paying job. Not everyone has the same opportunities. But still, men feel like they have no excuse. They must succeed, no matter what.
That pressure shows up in many ways. Some men work long hours at jobs they hate. Others give up on their dreams just to earn fast money. And sadly, some even stay silent about their stress or fears because they don't want to seem weak.
That's heartbreaking. It's like men are expected to be machines, always working, always providing, without ever breaking down or asking for help.
And even in relationships, money plays a big role. Many men worry that if they don't earn enough, they won't be respected by their partner, or worse, they'll be left behind.
True. I've heard men say, if I don't have money, no one will even look at me. And that mindset comes from years of social conditioning. Society says, you're only valuable if you can afford things.
And that's why the pressure is not just financial, it's deeply emotional and psychological. It affects self-esteem, confidence, and mental health.
And here's the truth. Yes, money matters. But a man's worth is not only in his income. It's in how he treats others, how he handles challenges, and how he keeps moving forward even when life gets hard.
Well said. So let's move on and ask the big question. Is a man's worth only measured by his income? Let's explore that next. All right, let's ask the big question. Is a man's worth only measured by his income? What do you think, Julia?
I'll say this, Jason. It shouldn't be. But unfortunately, in many parts of the world, people do judge a man by how much money he makes. It's like society has created this invisible scale. The more money you have, the more valuable you are.
Yes, and that's a very dangerous way to measure someone's worth. Of course, income is part of life. We all need money to survive, to support ourselves and our families. But it's just one part of a person's identity.
Right. A man could be a great father, a loyal friend, a wise thinker, or a kind human being. But if he doesn't have a big bank account, many people overlook all of that.
That's so true. And think about the people who are still working hard every day to grow. Maybe they lost a job, or maybe they're in school, or trying to start something new. They still have value, even if the money hasn't come yet.
Exactly. But sadly, some people only see what's visible: money, success, lifestyle. They don't see the potential, the effort, or the character behind the man.
And that can really destroy a man's confidence. He starts to believe, I'm not enough. I don't matter. No one respects me because I don't have money. That inner voice becomes very toxic.
Yes, and it can lead to depression, anger, or even isolation. That's why we have to change the message we send, especially to young men. Their worth isn't tied to their wallet. It's tied to who they are.
I agree. I mean, some of the greatest men in history, leaders, teachers, inventors, were not rich. What made them great was their mindset, their heart, and their impact on others.
And even today, there are millions of hardworking men out there who give their best every day, not for fame or money, but for love, for growth, for purpose. We need to celebrate that too.
Absolutely. So to anyone listening right now who feels less than because of money, please know you matter. You are not defined by your paycheck. You are so much more.
And now that we've unpacked that question, let's go deeper. Let's talk about how societal expectations and personal identity are often in conflict. That's coming up next.
So, Julia, let's talk about something really important. Societal expectations versus personal identity. because a lot of the pressure men feel comes from what society expects them to be.
Yes, absolutely. Society often says, a real man provides, a real man is strong, a real man doesn't cry, and of course, a real man must have money. But who gets to decide what a real man is?
Exactly. These expectations are like invisible rules that many men try to follow, even if those rules go against their true selves. It's like wearing a mask just to be accepted.
And over time, that mask becomes heavy. A man might want to be an artist, a teacher, a stay-at-home dad, or even take a break to focus on mental health. But if those roles don't come with high income or status, people start judging him.
Right. It's like society says, don't be who you are. Be who we expect you to be. And that creates a deep conflict inside. A man starts to feel lost. Should I follow my passion or follow the money?
And sadly, many choose money, not because they want to, but because they feel they have no other choice. They're afraid they'll be seen as weak, lazy, or irresponsible.
And that's where identity begins to suffer. When you live your life based only on others' expectations, you lose touch with your true self. And that can lead to burnout, sadness, or even identity crisis.
The truth is, personal identity is powerful. When a man knows who he is, his values, his dreams, his purpose, he becomes strong from the inside. Money or no money, he feels whole.
Yes, and that inner strength often leads to outer success later on. Because when you live with purpose and passion, you create your own path, not just follow someone else's.
So for any man listening today, ask yourself, who am I really? Am I living for myself or just to please others? That one question can change everything.
Well said, Julia. Now let's hear some real-life stories of men who were judged for not having money, and how they dealt with it. I think this will really connect with our listeners. So let's share some real-life examples now. Because sadly, many men around the world have been judged, or even rejected, just because they didn't have money.
Yes, and these stories are painful, but they're also powerful. They help us see the emotional cost of this kind of thinking.
One story that really stuck with me is about a young man named Amir. He was a brilliant computer programmer, self-taught, super passionate, but he came from a poor background and couldn't afford a college degree. When he proposed to the woman he loved, her family rejected him. Not because of who he was, but because he didn't have a proper job or status.
That's heartbreaking, Jason. He had talent, ambition, and a good heart, but all they saw was the money he didn't have.
Exactly. But here's the amazing part. He didn't give up. He started freelancing online, built his skills, and eventually created a tech startup. Today, he's successful and respected. But imagine if he had let that rejection define his worth.
Wow, that's inspiring. And I've heard many similar stories. One man I know wanted to be an artist, but his community mocked him, saying, "Art doesn't feed a family." He gave up art for years just to work a job he didn't love. Only later in life did he return to his passion, and now his work is in galleries.
It really shows how we judge too quickly. We don't always see the potential inside someone who is struggling financially, but struggle doesn't mean someone is lazy. It doesn't mean they're not good enough.
Exactly. And you know what's even sadder? Sometimes men judge themselves more harshly than anyone else. They think, if I'm broke, I'm worthless. That mindset can destroy confidence.
Yes, but these stories remind us money can come and go, but dignity, hard work, and growth matter so much more. People who are judged for not having money are often the ones who later surprise everyone.
Absolutely. And if you're listening right now and you've been judged or rejected for your financial situation, please don't lose hope. You are more than your bank account. Your journey isn't over.
That's right. And speaking of hope, let's ask a powerful question next. Can a man be happy and respected without wealth? Let's talk about that coming up. So here's the next big question. Can a man truly be happy and respected without wealth? What do you think, Julia?
I believe the answer is yes, Jason, but it depends on two things, the mindset of the man himself and the people around him. If a man has self-respect and lives with purpose, he can be happy, even without a lot of money.
Totally agree. It's not easy, though. In a world that celebrates luxury and success, it takes real inner strength to say, I may not be rich, but I know who I am, and I'm proud of that.
Yes, and that kind of happiness comes from within, from knowing you're doing your best, from having good relationships, growing every day, and living with integrity.
Exactly. And when people around you respect your values, not just your bank balance, that's when true happiness grows. It's about the quality of life, not the quantity of money.
You can have peace, love, and purpose without a big paycheck. Many men who live simple lives are deeply content. They focus on health, family, spirituality, or helping others, and that gives their life meaning.
And let's be honest, money doesn't guarantee happiness anyway. We've seen wealthy people who are lonely, stressed, or completely lost.
That's so true. So yes, a man can be respected and happy without wealth, but it starts with how he sees himself. If he values who he is, others will follow.
Beautifully said. Now, let's talk about something practical. How can men build value beyond money? What are the things that really make someone rich in character? Let's explore that next. So, Julia, now that we've talked about how happiness and respect aren't only tied to wealth, let's get practical. How can a man build real value beyond just money?
Great question, Jason. I believe one of the biggest ways is by developing strong character. Qualities like honesty, kindness, responsibility, and patience, they make someone truly valuable, not just in society, but in relationships and within themselves.
Absolutely. A man who keeps his word, respects others, and shows up with integrity. That's someone people trust, regardless of how much he earns.
Another way is to build skills. When you're always learning, whether it's communication, leadership, problem-solving, or creativity, you increase your worth in ways money can't measure.
That's right. And you can learn those things for free. Through books, online courses, podcasts like this one. When you invest in yourself, you become richer on the inside.
Also, don't forget emotional intelligence. Men who understand their emotions, who can stay calm under pressure and support others, those are powerful traits. People are drawn to that kind of maturity.
Yes, and let's not overlook relationships. Being a good father, a loyal partner, a supportive friend, that's a kind of wealth too. It's the wealth of connection.
So true. And even giving back, volunteering, mentoring, or simply encouraging someone adds to your value. Because when you lift others, you lift yourself.
Exactly. So, to all our listeners, never forget this. You don't need to have money to add value to the world. You just need to show up as your best self every day.
And now, for those who are facing real struggles, let's share some encouraging advice on how to deal with the pressure. That's coming up next.
All right, let's take a moment to speak directly to the men who are listening and who may be struggling with financial pressure right now.
First of all, if that's you, we see you. We know it's not easy. The stress of trying to provide, feeling judged, or feeling less than can be overwhelming.
But please remember, your situation doesn't define you. Your current income is not your final destination. You're growing. You're learning. You're doing your best. And that's enough.
Take small steps every day. Focus on improving yourself, mentally, emotionally, and skill-wise. Look for opportunities, stay connected to supportive people, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
And most importantly, be kind to yourself. You are not a failure. You are not alone. You are worthy of respect, love, and happiness, no matter your financial situation.
You are more than money. You are human, and you have value, right now just as you are.
All right, let's wrap up with some final thoughts and encouragement before we close today's powerful episode. Well, Julia, this has been a deep and meaningful conversation. To all our listeners, remember, your worth is never defined by money alone.
Yes, Jason, you are valuable for who you are, your character, your kindness, your courage to keep going even when things are tough.
So keep believing in yourself. Keep growing. And remember, success comes in many forms, not just financial.
Thank you so much for listening to Personal Growth Talks podcast. We hope today's episode gave you strength and a fresh perspective.
Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and keep moving forward.
Take care, everyone.